Hello everyone. So today we're going to talk about ADHD and the high dosing of methylphenidate. My tolerance is twice as high as everybody else, so my methylphenidate dosage is obviously high over the past 25 years, and it has been increasing slowly. So I do want to talk about this, and I think it will benefit some people. Methylphenidate, which is the active ingredient in Ritalin and Concerta and bifentin, works by binding to specific proteins on the nerve cells, not by binding directly to the brain tissue. So what it does for methylphenidate is that the body produces enough dopamine, but it leaves the synapse much faster. So methylphenidate is a dopamine reuptake inhibitor. It binds into the enzyme, and it let the methylphenidate dopamine last longer in your synapse. So it doesn't produce more dopamine like some other medications, such as Vyvanse. I guess a new one, it's the methamphetamine. But anyways, okay, so how does it work? Target dopamine and norepinephrine transporter. Methylphenidate binds primarily to DAT, which I talked about, and also binds to the ENT neuroepinephrine transporter, so generally with somewhat lower affinity. It blocks the neurotransmitter reuptake, like I just talked about, normally removes dopamine and neuroepinephrine from the space between the neurons, the synapse. By occupying this transporter, methylphenidate prevents them from taking these neurotransmitters back into the nerve cell. So therefore, it leaves more dopamine and neuroepinephrine available to activate nearby neurons in your synapse. So what does happen? The effects are strongest in the brain region involving attention, motivation, and executive functioning. So, like I talked about before, as a review, prefrontal cortex is for attention, planning, and working memory. The striatum is for motivation, reward, and movement. Connections involving the basal ganglia and other attention networks. So, what does binding mean? You can think of transporter as a lack of methylphenidate as a key that fits into it. When methylphenidate occupies the transporter, dopamine cannot enter the transporter. Dopamine remains in the synapse longer, like I talked about. Its signaling between neurons becomes stronger. Importantly, methylphenidate does not cause neurons to release large amounts of dopamine. Instead, it mainly prevents the dopamine from being cleared away. So, talking about this, some doctors try both with methylphenidate and maybe a long release or something like Vyvanse together. So it releases more dopamine. At the same time, it also prevents the dopamine from leaving the nerve cells and stays in the synapse. So, how strongly does it bind? Scientists describe binding strength using a value called dissociation constant, Ki. Methylphenidate has high affinity for the dopamine transporter, moderate to high affinity for the neuroepinephrine transporter, and very little binding to serotonin transporter or dopamine receptor themselves. The selective action helps explain why methylphenidate is effective for treating ADHD by improving attention, impulse control, and executive functioning, while having relatively targeted effects on neurotransmitter system. So now I'm actually going to talk about my experience with high dosing of methylphenidate. I'm on 150 milligram right now, and it's been stable for the past 3 years. I've been taking methylphenidate since I was 18 years old, 17 when I entered McGill University. It was prescribed by, obviously, a psychiatrist, and the dosage was 60 milligrams, which is actually in the blue book. It is recommended maximum dosage. So I started with 30, I got pushed up to 60, and then I got pushed up to 120, and that stayed for about 10 to 12 years. And then for the past 2 years, I've been on 150 milligrams. So this is what happens, okay? Because methylphenidate is something that prevents the reuptake of the dopamine. It does not produce more dopamine to bind to. Therefore, my prescription says 50 milligrams 3 times a day, and it's just to be easier on the pharmacy to do it other than 30 milligrams for 5 times a day, right? So anyways, I was forced to actually take 50 milligrams altogether instead of just 20 and 30 milligrams. And the effect is no different than I was taking 20 or 30 milligrams than 50 milligrams. It's a waste of medication. It is not optimal for me because it also wears out after 2-3 hours, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And there's still no benefit of taking more than, the same effect when you're taking less. And because there is nothing to bind to, there's nothing to actually bind to anymore. Your body doesn't release dopamine enough for more methylphenidate to bind to. So essentially, the methylphenidate is floating in your brain's little nerve cells and synapse and whatever it is, and it's not binding to anything. So therefore, there's no extra reuptake inhibitor functionality. If you're taking more than the optimal, I would say that's the word for the optimal. So take my advice, talk to your doctor, try different ones. Like for me, I've tried me and our doctor tried every single medication. We went back to methylphenidate as prescribed way back in 2000. Okay, we're on 26 now. 26 years, I've been on the same medication. And everything else either give me side effect or it does not work. Especially XRs, it does not work. I would actually go and crush it up, take the coating out, take the active ingredient, and try to actually feel something, and it doesn't. And that's for Concerta. That's what I did for Concerta. Obviously told my doctor about it, and we went back to methylphenidate. And then we tried Adderall. I took it out of the little capsule, eat it. Well, I grind it up a little bit because it's in the little, beads. And I eat it, and that's the active ingredient. And it's methylphenidate, but it does not work. For some reason, it just doesn't work. So methylphenidate, immediate release is the only one that works for me. And as a high dosage, actually, I'm able to take about 300 milligrams in one day and still not feel high, not feel anxiety, not feel psychosis, not feel nothing. Like I was focused, when I hyper focus, sometimes I go on 2 days. I work overnight, and it's so beneficial. But right now, I don't have the luxury. I'm on daily dispensing because people are stealing my medication and breaking into my house. So I'm on daily dispensing, and the hyper focusing, I don't have enough to hyper focus for 2-3 days. So this video is a little bit longer, but I hope you rewind it to where I look at the camera, because then I won't be reading it off my other phone, and actually understand what I'm going through in terms of my experiences with the medication, and maybe talk to your doctor about it by mixing both methylphenidate and something like a pro drug like Vyvanse. All right, talk to you guys soon.